Hi everyone, this is Samantha Varner from ProSymmetry. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we will be unveiling version 9.1, a version that we are very excited about. A lot of good things. I know we say that every time, but our product team really just blows us away with everything in each version. So a few items today. Matt Baker is going to be running most of the webinar, so I'm excited that he's going to be here for you. And then, of course, and Matt, if you want to go to the next slide here, just a few housekeeping notes about the version. So how to upgrade to 9.1. Just like every upgrade in the past, 9.1 is going to be free to you. There is no cost to upgrade. This is included in your annual subscription of Tempus. Everyone or every customer, I should say, that has premium support, so you have that non-production environment or environments, you are eligible to schedule your upgrade as soon as today. So reach out to your customer success manager or your implementation consultant, depending on where you're at with your implementation of Tempus. Reach out to them and they will make sure that we get that non-production environment scheduled. Production environments should be able to be upgraded, we'll say about 2 weeks. If you want to, get on the schedule as soon as you can, again, reach out to your customer success manager or your implementation consultant, and they will be able to get that scheduled for you or just manage that timing as we can. Release notes are available to download in the handout section of GoToWebinar. Of course, they will also be available in the Help Center. Same with a recording of this webinar. Probably by end of day today Eastern, maybe early tomorrow morning, just depends on how quickly we can move with this. That will be available today too. Yeah, and we're just really, really excited. So thank you all so much for joining us. Feel free to share this if there's anyone who could not make it today. But with that said, Matt, let's kick it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining again today to go through the version 9.1 of Tempus Resource. I'm going to go ahead, and today will mostly be a live demonstration of the new functionality and some of the enhancements within version 9.1. And we'll start just by opening up Tempus on this screen and going through some of the new functionality. So I'm going to head back to the home page. And to start things off, we always like to mention some of the kind of updates we've made to the user interface. So we're committed to continuously updating Tempus to be more WCAG compliant as the versions are released, just to make sure that the usability and functionality is aligned to as many people as possible. And so one of the things that we have done within this version is we have updated look and feel of many of the different areas within Tempus. So you're going to see that within most of the kind of forms that you see. So that's going to include general settings, your project attribute pages, your resource attributes, your workflow forms, as well as the timesheet period management screen. So we'll briefly go through what that looks like, but it's just a minor uplift to the Tempus user interface, where then you can see some of the differences and just a little bit better usability and capabilities within here. So you can see that we have kind of changed the shading a little bit of some of these input boxes, as well as some of the different attributes within here. So just a minor look and feel updates within there. Additionally, what we also have added is when it comes to some of the progress bar and sliders associated to your skills, we have made a minor UI update to that as well, just to make it a little bit more crisp and clean. So you'll see this within many of those forms, like I was saying. So the main ones most likely will be your project management, resource management, as well as workflow. But for any of the administrators out there that navigate to general settings, you will see that within there, as well as if we do navigate, and I'll leave this page, over to my timesheet period management screen. This doesn't happen quite often, but when you do need to create new timesheet periods within your screen, you can go ahead and you will see a new updated UI, just to be a little bit more or align more to kind of the new look and feel and some of those updates that have been made. So just generalized look and feel, nothing too crazy in the functionality when it comes to those particular areas. They're going to work exactly the same. It's just the updated way that they are going to be displayed when viewing it within the user interface. Additionally, one thing I did also want to mention is within the WCAG compliance, we have added some capabilities for screen reader support. So with that being said, I'm going to go back to the home page. We're going to go over some of the core new features within version 9.1. And the first one is going to be surrounding weekends. So historically, Tempus Resource has been more so aligned to a 5-day work week. So Monday through Friday, you'd be able to specify, or you'd only be able to work within those particular time frames. Within 9.1, we have opened that up a little bit, and we do allow for entries on weekends. So due to how this works and how some organizations may not want to allow for weekend values, or they may not want to track their information in this fashion, this is an option that does need to be enabled within general settings. And to do so, we can head over to admin settings, general settings, and this will be found within the global tab of general settings, about halfway down the page. So this new option right here called working weekends will allow you to or allow you as well as your users to enter in time at the daily level on your weekend value, on weekends for your projects as well as your resources capacity. So it is on both sides, so you can define that if you would like. However, it only is at the daily level. So what exactly does that mean? So if you work with Tempus before, you know that when you enter in data at like a weekly or a monthly level, based off the number of working days within there, we do automatically kind of distribute those hours throughout all the days within that period. So even if you have the working weekends option enabled, it is only going to distribute when you're at a weekly or a monthly level on the weekdays, so Monday through Friday. If you are looking to put those hours against a project on the given weekend, you will have to go and drill into the daily level and explicitly state, I want to enter in 8 or 10 or 15 hours against this project for this resource on the Sunday or Saturday value. So just going to see what that looks like. I'm going to go navigate here to project management, and I'll navigate to my Apollo Phase 14 project. And I'm going to go ahead and check this out. So I have this resource here, Emma Bell, and if we go with the weekend option enabled, we can go ahead and say, okay, we're going to have 100 hours in June of 2023. But then if I go and I go to my daily level and find June, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a filter here so we can kind of focus only on June of 2023, and we don't have to worry about some of the other dates. There we go. And you will see that this has been distributed equally throughout all the work days. So June 1st and 2nd, that's a Thursday, and then a Friday. But you can see we have added no values on the 3rd or 4th. So when we're kind of distributing it from a higher time granularity, it will only distribute to the work or the working days or Monday through Friday. But you will still be able to go into here specific and drill into a specific day and say, okay, I want 8 hours on the Saturday or 10 hours on Sunday. So you still can do that, but it will have to be at the daily level. These hours do roll up. So if you were to go, let's say back to the week mode here, you will still see these in your kind of roll-ups of your data. However, it just won't work the other way around by entering in a higher value. And if we do this here, let's say we change this to 40. Based on what we've discussed before, you should see only 8 hours for that given week and nothing on the weekends. So very nice functionality. I know something that a lot of our clients have been asking for, and will allow you to kind of finally be able to put the hours and plan an actual against your projects on those weekends at that daily level. Additionally, we have added another mode of entry within the single project and bulk project allocation flat grid screens. So I'm going to go ahead and just release these changes. I'm going to go back and we'll open up Apollo Phase 14 once more. And so if I go here to my monthly mode, we see that we can still view all our information within months, weeks, days, quarters. However, we have added the yearly option as well within both of these views. So if you're looking to enter in your allocation at a yearly option, you can now do so within the single project, as well as if we go back to the home page and then go to my bulk project allocation flat grid screen, you'll see the same option with a year mode defined. So by default, when you upgrade your environment, you will not have this option enabled. It's just deactivated by default. But to enable this option, it's very straightforward. All you have to do is navigate to your general settings page. And then from here, we go down here to mode of entry, and you'll see this new option labeled year. And then lastly, on kind of the project and resource management pages, we have added one more option within BPA flat grid as well as single project allocation called the capacity exceeded indicator. And so something that we've typically seen with a lot of our clients is they'll be allocating their resources onto projects, and they may go out a couple years, and then they may end up accidentally allocating a resource outside of their capacity limit. So let's say their capacity for a resource ends in 2024, and then you're allocating, you're assigning this resource onto the project, you're not really thinking too much into it, and then you end up assigning them into 2025, and that resource doesn't currently have any capacity. So something that can be easily fixed, something you can go in there, but sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to isolate and identify where that happens, which is where this kind of capacity exceeded indicator comes into play. So what this is going to do is when you go into a project in SPA or in BPA, if you were to assign a resource to a project and it essentially falls outside of their capacity boundaries, it's going to give you a little indicator and allow you to take action to automatically update the resource's capacity based off of the time that you've defined. So this does follow your typical permissions when it comes to updating the capacity. So you may be able to see this, but not update the capacity. And so it is going to still follow the same kind of permissional basis that we have. It's just going to allow you to identify those resources much easier. So to kind of walk through this, I have set up a resource on this side. I believe I have Colin over here. And if not, let's see. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to set his capacity to end in 2024. So we'll go ahead, hit December 2024 as capacity end date. And so this resource only has capacity for the entirety of 2023 as well as 2024. So now if I go to single project management, and I'll use the same project here, Apollo Phase 14. Let's go ahead and check this out. And I'll stay in the yearly mode, and I'll just add Colin onto this project. So currently he's assigned nothing. We know he has capacity from 2023 and 2024. And so I put in some hours here, and so far everything looks the same. However, if I were to go into 2025, and let's say I put 1,000 hours, now I've assigned some allocation outside his capacity limits. And now we'll see kind of this indicator on the left saying the capacity is out of bounds, meaning that we've assigned allocation to this resource where he does not have any capacity defined. So this gives you that indicator. And then if you would like to go ahead and take some action upon it, you can click on it. And then it's going to prompt you to say, would you like to increase the capacity end date for Colin or whatever resource that you're working with so that it extends out for the duration for the allocation that you've defined. So it does give you some default limits right here. So for me, it's 8 hours in 1 FTE at a daily level. And this is defined based off of your default per day capacity values within your admin settings. So it's going to be your system specific settings, allowing you to extend out the capacity based off the default value that you've provided. If you go ahead and hit yes, it's going to move forward, extend the capacity out all the way, in my case, to the end of 2025. Or I can go ahead and hit cancel, just kind of keep the change and not update its capacity. So just another very good way for us to kind of identify some of the resources or some of the areas where we may not have capacity, or we may have accidentally allocated a resource that we shouldn't have, and allow you to kind of take some action if needed. Perfect. And then one more feature that I want to cover is we're going to revolve around the project management and resource management screen. And this is going to be some advanced tool tips. So as we've matured and as a product and continue to move on, one of the constant feedback we hear is just the easeability or the ease of use when it comes to navigating between view and view and being able to get to the exact view very quickly with the least amount of clicks. So least amount of clicks, the better, typically is what we've seen. So we've tried to introduce some additional ways for us to be able to navigate through the product without having to drill into a page and then go to another link into another link. And one of the ways that we're trying to do this is through some advanced tooltips, which will allow you to navigate to particular areas of a project or a resource very easily from the project and resource management screen, respectively. So to do so, we go to project management. And if we hover over any of the names, you will now see this option over here, allowing you to essentially drill into any of the particular screens or sheet templates that you have essentially provided to your users. So now if I wanted to go to, let's say I need to go to Cheerio Phase 2 and I need to see the team, we can very quickly just hover over it, select on Build Team, and then we're right there. And you can do that with N, and then from there, you're just basically in the project and you can kind of navigate how you would. And so you'll have access to any of the screens that you would typically have access to within this dropdown. So if we go back, we'll see this option is also available on the resource management side of things as well. So if we head over here to resource management and we want to do the same thing, we have Colin Moreno and I need to see his skills. I can go to Colin, I see my skill matrix, click there, and then boom, I'm at my skills and I can go ahead and work with them as you normally would. So just some additional options to help quickly navigate through the product and just make it a better user experience for your end users within Tempus. So these are not going to be enabled by default. So I believe we do have a general setting that configures this option. And if we go here, I believe it's here in miscellaneous. If you do want to enable these options for your end users, you'll just have to navigate over to miscellaneous within general settings as the administrator. You'll see this entity list, and underneath here is that advanced tooltips option. So when this is enabled, you will essentially have the option to hover over the names and help you quickly navigate to your projects and resources. So before I move on to some of the enhancements that we've made within the project management and resource management areas, I do want to bring up one more topic that I kind of missed when covering the capacity exceeded. So that option is not something that is a general setting, but it is specific to the projects that you're looking at or an SPA. So if you were to navigate to the allocation, you do want to see those limits, you have to enable them by navigating here to options. And then you would see the capacity out of bounds indicator right here. So if you do not want that option enabled for you to use or just see as it at a per user basis, you can always disable it. And if you want to see that, you just go ahead and enable it here. And it's going to be very similar on the BPA flat grid side of things. So if we navigate here, within your options, you're going to see that capacity out of bound indicator right here. So forgot to mention that, but I want to make sure everyone has the know-how to make sure they can utilize this new functionality within Tempus. So with that being said, we're going to move on to some of the additional enhancements that we've made within some of the major views within Tempus. And a lot of these are going to be centered around project management, our resource management, as well as some of the file capabilities throughout Tempus. So to start things out, I'm going to navigate here to project management. And we have added some additional kind of ease of use, user-friendly ways to continue to interact with your projects. And a lot of these are going to be centered around the grid here. So to start things out, I want to mention that we have added new capabilities when you navigate over these ellipses. So these are going to be additional options, similar capabilities to what we have seen in Tempus before. However, it's just going to allow you to do it through these ellipses options. So let's say, for example, I go to Astro Phase 7 and I select on the ellipses. I'll now see an option to open the project. And that's going to do exactly what you'd think it would do. It's going to navigate me to the project instead of clicking on the name. So just another way to navigate to the project itself. Additionally, if we go back, we'll also have options to interact with individual projects and make some updates through templates. So in the previous version of Tempus, we have introduced some templating options, essentially allowing you to create template projects where you can then essentially pull bits and pieces of those projects into an existing project based off of what's defined. And so we introduced that. You were able to click into here essentially, and you could go here. If we go to my attributes page, we would be able to create a project template based off your existing template, as well as you had options to import information into this project from a template that you've created. We've also introduced those same capabilities within the grid itself. So if you would like to essentially create a template based off of this, we can absolutely do so. We can hit create template. All you have to do is specify a name, and then you can choose to open it on create, to navigate you and make additional updates, or just create it so then it could be used for future use. Additionally, we've also added options to import from a template. So importing is essentially going to be updating the project based off of an existing template. And from here, you would then also get to kind of pick and choose what part of the projects you'd like to essentially bring over. So if you're only looking to bring over attributes and plan allocation, you can do so. And then you just select the template up here. Now we've just introduced the options to easily do it from within the grid itself. And on that same topic, we know that bulk updating capabilities are very important for our users. So we've also introduced the ability to essentially import from templates to multiple projects simultaneously. So if, let's say we wanted to update these 6 projects here, and we wanted to update them all based off the same existing template, we can absolutely do so. We just have to select on the ellipses of one of the projects, and we will see that import from template option. We select on it, select the template, and I have my small, medium, and large projects, and then from there just select the different areas that you'd like to bring in. So there's some additional capabilities and bulk capabilities building on the existing template functionality that we added a couple releases ago. And then lastly, on this ellipses side of things, I just want to also mention, and I'll deselect all these projects and get myself back to one, is we did also add the ability to lock and unlock projects using the ellipses options as well. So there's more ways to interact with the grid and control kind of the flow of the project and what is associated to it within the grid itself. Okay. Outside of that, in a previous version, we did introduce some capabilities around sheet templates and exposing those as kind of drop-down options within projects. What we have changed within there as well is if I hover over, you do see my 2 sheet templates. So I have project list and issues. This is now going to be sorted in an alphanumeric order instead of just on a generic order that we previously had predefined. So previously, our sheet templates would be essentially, we'd have our normal ordering of our main areas of Tempus associated to a project, allocations, attributes, basically everything you see here. And then at the bottom, we would then show our list of sheet templates. We have changed that, so now those are part of kind of the normal ordering within that alphanumeric format. So if we go over here to allocations, previously you would see issues and project list down at the bottom. Now you're going to see them kind of integrated into the list based off of that alphanumeric order. So you're going to see something very similar on the resource side of things as well. Okay. Besides that, we've also updated the capabilities when it comes to creating projects. So previously, there was a dependency to create a project. You need to have the create project permission within the global role. And then we saw that people wanted to only create projects based off of existing templates. Well, the issue that came there, or the feedback that we received was, well, to create a project, I need to have create project as well as create template, which then led to some confusion where they still could create regular projects outside the templates being provided. So we have kind of broken those 2 permissions up and essentially allowing users that don't have the ability to create projects to still create projects based off a template as long as they have the proper permissions. So kind of see what that looks like over here. If I hit create project, I have a multitude of different projects here. I have my regular project, which is just your normal typical project entity within Tempus. I have a slew of different workflow projects, and then down at the bottom I have template projects. So previously, there wasn't really a way for us to only isolate users that create only template projects. But now when we have, if we have the proper permissions set up, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open an incognito window to kind of show you with a user I've set up already. I've created a template user here. It's going to log in. Very normal access to the system. If I navigate here to project management, if I go to create a project, now you can see it's isolated only to those template projects within the system. Previously, if I would have set it up in a very similar fashion, I would have still saw regular projects. However, now there are ways so that you can limit it to only have access to those template projects and really disallow users from creating new project entities based off of the regular project format. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close out. We shouldn't need this template user anymore. And outside of that, I did want to mention one more thing, and this will come up a little bit later as well on when we go over some of the attribute updates that we've made. However, I did want to mention that we have changed some of the enforcement when it comes to creating and updating projects, specifically around required fields. So previously, when you create a new project, and I'll just go through kind of the motions of what this would look like, you would create a project, and if you go to the attributes page over here, you would go ahead and fill out all your fields. However, your required fields would automatically be set to the predefined default value of that attribute. So what this could lead to is required fields not properly being filled out, because since there was really no indicator on the Tempus side, it would allow you to submit it because it was already selected to the default value. We have received some feedback that from some of our clients that they would like to kind of have that change. So we did take some time to make an update, which essentially allows you to, or breaks, I wouldn't say breaks, but it makes it so you do not need to require a default value for your required fields. And instead, it's going to make you enforce filling and selecting out a value for your required fields within Tempus. So what does this look like? So let's say, for example, I had a test project before, and on this project, there are required fields. Previously, what would happen is if I were to go hit create, it would just allow me to create it because all my required fields had default values assigned. However, now since I've removed those default values, it's going to say, oh, I need to go ahead and actually select these values. You can see my 3 required fields have no values set, and I actually need to go through, select those values, and provide the information in here. Now, if I go ahead and hit create, since all my required fields have been filled out, I can go ahead and hit submit, create the project, and everything's all good. So you're going to see that with your resource fields if you decide to remove the default values for your required fields, as well as you will also see this impact on the workflow project side of things. So if you had workflow forms that have required fields in there and you remove the default values, then you will essentially have the same functionality requiring the user to take some sort of action against those required fields when filling out the forms. Perfect. So I'm going to go back one page again and head to project management. And we also have made some slight enhancements on the Gantt side. So one of the other project views that we do have within here, outside of our Kanban view and grid view, is the Gantt view. And that's just going to allow you to see your projects kind of in that Gantt format. And we've added 2 additional pieces of, or 2 enhancements within this side of the side of Tempus. One is some grouping options. So now you can group together like projects within here based off of some attribution. So right now I have this grouped by my current phase, but you can select from any of your existing project custom fields up to a maximum of 5. Additionally, we've also added the ability to have views within this area. So previously you had one standardized view. Now you have the capability to essentially create more than one view on this side of things. So now I can navigate between here. I have my by project manager. I have it grouped by project manager within here. And if I need to navigate to another one, I can go back to my by phase and see what this information looks like. Additionally, like we saw on in the grid side of things on project management, where we added some of the capabilities to import template information and create templates based off of projects, we've also introduced that on the Gantt side. So you will see the ellipses for each one of my projects here on the left, and you do have the same capabilities to essentially create templates from as well as import from a template for those specific projects. Okay, so that kind of covers the majority of the functionality on the resource management side. I do want to hop over to, the project management side. I do want to hop over to resource management as well, and it's just going to be one slight change within here, and that's going to be kind of something similar to what we talked about before, and that's kind of the ordering of our sheet templates. So if I navigate over here, and I'll just go to attributes and identity, we just changed the order of these drop downs. Before, they were essentially grouping together the kind of out-of-the-box areas of Tempus, that being for your resources, audit log, file management, sheets, skills matrix, and then showing your sheet templates down below. Now it's going to be including that in the entire sorting and then sorting it alphanumeric. So that's why we see experience details in the middle of this list and not at the bottom like you may have previously seen. Okay. And then one more area that we have made quite a few additional enhancements to is the file management and the file management capabilities within Tempus. So within Tempus, the last release, we did introduce file management capabilities, and we've just expanded on some of those capabilities, allowing you to have some folder structures to help organize the information that you have associated to either one of your projects or resources, as well as given some out-of-the-box viewing capabilities to select file types within here. So I'm going to navigate back to my home page and go to Project Management, and I'm going to open up my ProSymmetry project. And from here, I'm going to go to my File Management, and you're going to see that the look and feel has changed a little bit, and it's just some of those the introduction of some of the file capabilities, as well as so we can organize our information. So to create a folder, it's very straightforward. Over here on the left, you'll see your file structure as well as a create folder option. So depending on what folder you're currently in, that's where the underlying folder will be created. So right now I'm just in an overarching files area. I can go ahead and create a new folder. And I already have one, so I'll go ahead and delete this one and walk through that once more. And then we'll see it's been added down below. And if I want to navigate here to see what files live within there, we can just go ahead and select on it. So go back here, and I want to navigate into a specific folder. You can have more. You can have folders and then subdirectories or subfolders within there. And once you're in one of your folders or existing folders, if you create a folder, I'll just name this UAT, it's going to create it within that directory itself. Additionally, we have added capabilities to actually view the files that are in Tempus as long as they are a particular file type. So at this time, we currently support PDF, text files, and images. And if they are one of those types, or the files that you have uploaded are one of those types, you will see kind of a view option associated to it to see what it would look like. So I'm going to navigate over here to my one-pagers, and I have a couple of them already kind of downloaded or uploaded to this project. And let's say I wanted to look at my Sheets one-pager. You will see this view icon associated to here. We can go ahead and open up, and then we see that information. And we'll see very similar capability with our images as well as text files. So I have some preloaded images associated to my environment, such as some icons that I may need to use or need a reference. I can go ahead and click it, and it'll just display what that looks like, as well as I have some logging information, and I want to look at my dev log file. If I want to open this up, see what it looks like, I can see what that text information looks like within here. So just some capabilities that actually interact with the files that you have added within here, as well as great ways for you to work through and kind of start managing and ordering your files that have been uploaded within here as well. So outside of just the folder structure and the viewing capabilities when it comes to your files, we also have introduced files into a couple more areas within Tempus. And the first one is going to be to your sheets. So sheet templates within Tempus will now be able to support sheets at a row level. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back and I'm going to work with my resources column here. We looked at him a little bit earlier, and I'm just going to go to my sheets. So in the previous version, we did introduce some new ways to kind of view and work with your sheet information, and that's in this list view. So if I go over here, it's going to essentially take what we have in that underlying sheet and display it into a more list-like view. And if we were to check this out, we will have the capabilities to update and upload some of our files associated to these different rows. So let's go over here, and let's say I need to upload some files for my CompTIA A+. I can go here. I'm just going to go ahead. One second. And I will create this row and hit edit. And then you will see this kind of file area down below. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to upload a file. And I have some of my certificates right here. And I'm just going to go ahead, save that to the particular row. And you do something very similar for each one of those, or depending on what information you're tracking. This could be anything. If you've worked with sheet templates in the past, you know you really have full capability to kind of run with what information is stored there. And I'm just going to upload another one of my certificates right here. Hit save and check in. Give that a second. And now you can come back to this certificate and look at this file at any point in time within the particular sheet. Okay, and then the last area that I want to mention that we have added some support for files is in your timesheets. So now we also now allow timesheets to add a file associated to the timesheet itself. So if we go to My Timesheets, you will see here in the top right, there is a file section where you can upload a file that essentially would then be now directed to the timesheet approver for them to view that information. So if we were to upload this information, let's go here, and I have my weekly timesheet specifics, and I just want to provide some additional information. Maybe it doesn't fit within the existing format. Maybe it's some invoicing or any information that you need to pass to your superior. We can go ahead, upload that. And now when I go ahead and submit this timesheet, the approver will have access to view that sheet information or the file information that you have provided. And then just like with any timesheet, if you want to move forward, all you have to do is hit submit. Goes through the submit process, and then you're good. So you will be able to interact with the sheets, or I keep saying sheets, files. You'll be able to upload files associated with the timesheets, which would then be routed to the timesheet approver, where then they will also be able to view that information once it's been submitted. Okay, so I know we've covered a lot. But that is on kind of the main super grid area, so project management, resource management, and some of the key new pieces of functionality. We do have a lot more to cover as well on the admin side of things. So the next kind of 15 minutes or so will be spent kind of on some of the administrative updates that we've made, going over some new functionality in terms of features and just where to kind of see some of the information within general settings, as well as kind of the overall the attribute management page and some new functionality within there as well. So I'm going to head here to admin settings, and to start things off, I'm just going to head back to my general settings page and go through a couple new pieces of couple new settings that we've added here that will enhance and augment kind of the way you may work within Tempus. First, we have introduced an auto calculate capacity option. So this is very similar to what you probably already worked with in before, but I'm going to go ahead, open up a new tab here, and I'm just going to go to resource management, and I'll open up Colin. I'll just pick on him today and go to my capacity. And what this option here is doing, so we have this auto calculate capacity. All this is doing is taking this existing auto calculate FTE option here and just setting it to on by default. And you see the same thing as if you go to FTE side. So it's just driving home some enforcement of you want to stick to your kind of auto defined or your currently defined capacity options within here that you have defined within general settings, but still give them the capability to kind of break that enforcement if they want to disable it. So more of just an ease of use functionality and just giving maybe some peace of mind that majority of the resources that are being brought into here are going to follow that kind of default structure unless otherwise specified. Additionally, we have added some additional decimal placement support. So historically, Tempus has fit kind of a 2 decimal places within the SPA, BPA, and capacity views. However, we have allowed, or we just introduced an option to allow for you to have 4 decimal places if needed. So we've had some feedback where people need to have that increased kind of precision when it comes to the number value that they're providing within here. And so we're allowing users, when this option is enabled, to have 4 decimal places within those views. Additionally, under the Miscellaneous tab, we talked about this before, but we have added the advanced tooltips. So just wanted to bring that up again, since it is in this general settings area where we have, if you are looking to utilize this and allow users to use those tooltips when hovering over project and resource names, you can go ahead and do so by enabling this option here. Within the alias tab, we have introduced a file management alias. So file management introduced, I believe, last version. We've added an alias in case you want to name this. So I know we had some feedback where people wanted it to be called document management. So now you have full control over what that is named and how you want to work with it. And then also on this alias tab, we have introduced kind of this preview button. So a couple releases ago, we added a generic error text, which is just text that is provided to your users when an error occurs within Tempus. However, we didn't really provide too many options to actually see what that would look like. And with the amount of error typically happening relatively low, there was no way to really see how this would look for the users. So we added this preview option. So now you can see, okay, well, if an error were to occur, this is how it's going to display for your end users, and it's going to show you this text down below. Okay. And then the last option we have added within here actually resides in this heat map area. And this is the calculate heat map using the net capacity. So currently within Tempus, all the heat maps within your single project allocation and bulk project allocation flat grid views, they are currently being calculated based off of your net capacity. So when you do upgrade, expect that this option is still going to be enabled, and it's going to work exactly how your Tempus environment, your heat maps have worked in the past. However, we have also just allow you to essentially disable this to calculate your heat maps based off your base capacity. So when this is enabled, your heat maps use net capacity, so that's going to be factoring in any admin time or calendars that you have applied to your resources capacity. And when it's deactivated here, it's essentially going to ignore those and only calculate based off of that base capacity value, not including admin time or calendar time. Okay, so that covers the general settings area. We will head over to attribute management because we have made a lot of changes to this particular screen, as well as made a lot of changes on how you can interact with some of the attribute types, specifically around required fields, as well as your selection and multi-selection fields. So the first thing I want to mention is we just have updated the user interface entirely within here. So you will see it looks a little bit different, goes along with the WCAG compliance that we've been working towards as well. But what you will notice is we have introduced some icons, as well as just made it a little bit more clear and crisp on what the attribute is. So we updated this kind of drop down. We added some icons to particular attributes as well, and all the different attribute types. And you will see those throughout the product as well. So something you may have noticed, but we didn't explicitly cover, is if we were to go to a resource, for example, and we go down, you see we do have all these icons over here outlining the type of attribute that it is. And you'll see something very similar if we were to go to a project and then we open up the attributes page. You see those same icons over here, as well as this will also pass into the workflow forms as well. So we do have those icons being displayed within here. Additionally, we have added and enhanced the selection fields to allow for specific sorting. So previously, I believe we did it by ascending order. At one time, we did it by the ID of the created underlying field, which was leading to some confusion. So we wanted to give it really into the user's hands to define how these should be displayed to your user base. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to work with my project manager field. And you can see now I have the option to select on this value and either sort these attribute or these selection values in ascending, descending, or even provide a custom order where you can select the options over here and drag and drop how these should be defined. And so this will persist when you save this. That's going to be kind of what is defined within Tempus. So when you go to one of these attributes on the project or the resource side, and maybe even the assignment side as well, you will see it defined and ordered in the kind of way that you've displayed it here. Additionally, we have added the ability to deactivate particular selection values as well. So let's say in this case, we have project manager. Maybe it should have been a resource field, but right now it's a selection. Let's say Sam Jones leaves the organization. Well, we don't want our users to continue to be able to select Sam. However, we don't want to remove Sam entirely from the selection field because historical data may be impacted in historical projects. So this is where this kind of is enabled column comes into play over here on the right, where you can actually say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and disable Sam or deactivate Sam Jones within the selection. So what this will do is if I have this, for example, I'm going to go ahead and save this and go to my project management area. So now if I go to my project management and I pull in project manager, what you will see is we still see Sam Jones persisting within here. So the existing Sam Jones values will not be removed from the existing projects. However, I shouldn't see them within the dropdown anymore. So anytime that you would see Sam Jones and typically would be able to select it, it's going to essentially remove that capability from there to make sure they're not accidentally selecting kind of options that are no longer or should no longer be available. So really nice capability, especially to help limit some of those very large drop downs where they're constantly changing and maybe you need to add or remove particular values at a yearly basis. Okay. One second. Okay. Outside of that, we have also added some options to export some of this information for your selection fields. So over here, you will see we have a export to Excel option. So if you do need to export any of the information within here, you can export it and it's just going to bring an Excel file within here showing you that information. And then also I want to mention on here, we have removed the enforcement of our selection or remove the enforcement of our required fields. So now if you have a required field, previously when you edit it, you would have to go in here and specify a required value. Now we no longer need to do that. So if it is required, you can provide no value and have this set to not set. And then from here, we can still hit save, and it's just going to enforce you on those particular screens to provide the value when setting up the resource or project that you're working with. Okay. And then the last thing I want to add to this screen, just in particular, is just some capability to kind of work within here as well to filter some of the information you're seeing. So if we added this filter option on top of the search capability to say, oh, maybe I only want to look at my date fields, I can go ahead, select date, and it shows what it's looking like, or shows me all my date fields. If I want to only see my numbers, we can go ahead and use numbers, and you can see that with all the types of different attributes that we've added. And then on top of that, we've also updated the attribute layout and some minor changes here. And though first, it's going to come more so along the lines of some of the out-of-the-box kind of sections. So previously, some of the kind of system fields and dependency sections that you may have seen on the project and resource side, those were there, but you didn't really have the capability to move them or hide them or work with them essentially in your layouts. So we have exposed those. You still can't control what is displayed. Those are going to still be system controlled. However, the area for which they display on the sheet, as well as if they should be expanded or by default, can be controlled within here. So let's say you have your typical project system fields that consists of your ID, security group, and the assignment workflow value that is associated with the project. You could say, oh, that information really isn't that relevant. I want to kind of hide it towards the bottom. We can go ahead and do something along those lines, and we can save this. Now, if I go to my project management, open up the attributes page, instead of seeing that information directly at the top, we now will see it at the bottom. So just ease of use, more for the product allows you, or the project allows you to kind of control how that look and feel is going to be for your projects. And you'll see something very similar on the resource side of things as well, where you have our system field section. And then lastly, we added this new kind of look and feel for our project and resource side of things when it comes to opening up the attribute page. Similar to what we saw on the workflow side of things, we have introduced this kind of preview option, which just allows you to see what that looks like without having to navigate to the project and go back. So just a way for you can kind of get a preview of what this is going to look like when you work with it. Instead of having, so you can continuously update, see what it looks like. If you like it, you can move forward and save the changes, and then you can just make the updates directly within here, so you don't have to go back and forth between your project and resource management screens. Perfect. So that's the end of the attribute management, and we have a couple more things that we have to cover. And the first one is going to be the data sync and just the introduction of the ability to import Insight Plus as well as workflow users. So not much to really cover on this one, but previously you had to create them. If you have used Insight Plus or workflow only users, you did have to go to the project workflow users area and then import them or create them directly within here. We have exposed that to the Excel resource import. So to do so, it's very straightforward. I'm just going to open up this kind of the Excel template that we have for the resource side of things. And if you were looking to do that, all you have to do is specify the global role of either workflow user or Insight Plus user. And so we do provide a section on the instructions area of the resource import template. And that can be found by going to Data Sync, Excel, Resources, and then downloading it here. So we just reiterate, we have added the capability to import those Insight Plus and workflow only users using that Excel resource import option. And then lastly, on the two more things we have to cover, one is some quick updates on the view management area. So within here on the BPA specific side of things, as time has gone on, we have introduced a lot of specific options for those particular views. And so we've added those into the kind of the public view options as well. So you will see now this advanced option, and these are all the advanced options associated to within BPA or BPA flat grid. So if you would like to go ahead and kind of control what those should be defaulted to for your users, you can do so and then share them through the public view. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. I will leave without saving. And then lastly, on the administrative side, we've added one capability when it comes to our sheet templates. And that is just kind of providing you insight of who these sheets are assigned to when you do need to delete a template. So if you are going through the process of deleting a sheet template, you do have to go here and hit delete. However, you have to delete the underlying sheets that are associated to this template first. And so this is just going to give you some insight on where those sheets are assigned, give you options to navigate there so you can go ahead and delete them. And then once those have all been deleted, you can then delete the sheet template. Okay, so one more update on within Tempus before we move over to some of the API updates real quickly. And that's going to be first, we have deprecated the regular BPA grid within Tempus. So we still have the BPA flat grid, and most of our clients currently utilize BPA flat grid. However, in 9.1, we will be deprecating and removing the functionality for regular BPA. So we have made this apparent in 9.0 as well as I believe in 8.2 saying that it's going to be leaving soon. And we have moved forward with that kind of process of removing that capability within Tempus itself. On the API side, we have made some updates to some of the endpoints, specifically around workflow and workflow projects. So I won't go into too much detail on these, but we have added the ability to create workflow projects via the API, as well as update and convert regular projects to workflow projects via the API. And those are going to be done through the create and update project endpoints. Additionally, we have updated the general settings area within or general settings call just to include the weekend setting and how you can work with the weekend dates within there. On the custom field side of things, we have added some ability. We added a couple more fields to align to some of the new functionality, and that's going to be the is deactivated field for your enum types. That's the member sort order that is defined to a selection type attribute. Project endpoints have also been updated to include the ability to handle some of those project workflow capabilities. So you will see that those have been broken up. So previously it was just workflow ID and update workflow based off the assignment workflow. We have now broken those up. So we have update project workflow and update assignment workflow. You will see those all present within the project workflow calls as well. It is important to note, though, that your previous calls should still work with the if you were using the workflow capabilities. We have marked them as obsolete, but they still should be supported for your create and update project calls. On the file side of things, we have added row index parameter to the get and post to associate those to our underlying sheets. And then on the list and get workflow capabilities, we have now just introduced the ability to pull and interact with project workflow capabilities as well. So a lot on the project workflow side of things and some just updates that we've made due to some of the capabilities that we've added. And lastly, we have a couple brief updates on the Tempus What If side of things before I pass it back over to Sam. So I'm going to navigate to my Tempus model. And the first thing I want to mention is we have added some kind of some tooltips within here when you hover over these icons. Additionally, aliases will now pass through to the Tempus What If side of things. So if you have an alias for your allocation or demand, those should now be displayed within the What If side of things as well. As well as now we do have the ability to retain the groupings and columns that are being used within here. So previously, if we were to open up a model, the groupings and columns we add would be refreshed every time you navigate back to this model. However, we do retain that information now. So if I do current phase, and let's say I inserted a column for dataset preference, now if we go back to my model A, we should still see that information displayed. So it's still grouped by my column, as well as dataset preference is still displayed as a column within here. So this is going to be by a per model, per user basis. So all your models should have different options selected, and that is also going to be associated only to the user itself. So one person's model may have a couple columns added, and then another user's model of the same type of model, when they're in there, would have different columns. So I know we covered a lot today, but I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us to go through the new functionality within version 9.1. Very exciting stuff. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Samantha to kind of wrap up today's webinar.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of those details, Matt. With that said, everyone will be receiving an email with a link to the replay of this webinar and also a link to download the release notes from the Help Center. That's going to be about end of day Eastern or early tomorrow morning, just depends on when we get everything put together there. As soon as you know that you want to upgrade, of course, starting with your non-production environments, reach out to your customer success manager or implementation consultant, and they will be able to get that scheduled for you. But with that said, we're really excited about this version, really excited to hear your feedback about the version as well. And we look forward to getting you scheduled. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.